he got a 75% completion percentage versus a 65. Okay, where's the 10% drop off? Oh, that was a good throwaway right there, Ocho. Avoided the sack, avoided the loss, kept him in field goal range. I'm processing the entirety of the game. I'm not looking at no completion percentage because I'm not going to elevate him or downgrade him based on that. I will elevate or downgrade him based on the decisions that he makes.
It's no secret that the Colorado Buffaloes have been at the center of conversations ever since an NFL legend stepped foot on our playing field. Deion Sanders, an admired NFL Hall of Fame member, switched gears and took the helm as head coach, and the excitement has been through the roof since then. You know what they say, good news travels fast, and this has been no exception. The hype about the Buffalo has been humming louder than ever, just like a bee that has found the perfect flower. It's like the whole world turned its eyes on this team, waiting, watching, and hoping for the magic Deion promises to bring. If anything, it's growing louder with each passing day. It's like a train pulling into the station. The noise increases as it gets closer. The anticipation hanging in the air is thick, promising exciting games and breathtaking moments. Believe it or not, the moment Sanders' kick started his tenure, the Colorado football team blew everyone's mind. They started with a dazzling 3-0 streak and pulled off a surprising win over the 17th ranked TCU. Many enthusiasts declared this as the dawn of a fresh epoch in Colorado football.
Don't pick up the first down. He's just so instinctive, Mark. So instinctive.
Sanders gonna run it. Still on his feet. Still running. Finally pushed out of bounds at the 27-yard line.
However, the initial exhilaration swiftly evaporated. The Buffaloes, who began the season on fire, nosedived dramatically. They scraped just one victory from their final 9 games of the last season and ended up with a not-so-pleasing 4-8 record. That was a real bummer. Things were looking up this year. Expectations were brimming at the seams again. Analysts, including Fox Sports' Joel Klatt, were audaciously forecasting that the team would clinch no less than 8 wins, possibly even making it to 9. The past weekend was quite a shocker for us, all in terms of the anticipation we had built for the upcoming matchups. The saddening defeat to the Nebraska Cornhuskers has brought a storm of doubts on our expectations. As we recall, the intense face-off on Saturday, Nebraska, gave Colorado quite a hefty 28-10 setback, resulting in a reality check for many of us. The crucial questions that are now being asked relate to the team's progress since the last season. Despite all the excitement surrounding us, the Buffaloes are caught in the same old loop of challenges from last year. Bringing in some hard-hitting expert opinion, let's turn our focus to the NFL legend Shannon Sharpe. He expressed his worries on ESPN's First Take just a few days ago, putting a spotlight on the unsorted issues that loom over. Sharpe didn't hold back when he commented, "I got a bit uneasy when I saw their performance against North Dakota State." He continued, "They're still struggling with the same old troubles. They can't halt the run, can't put adequate pressure on the quarterback, and they're having a tough time shielding their own QB. It's genuinely worrisome." Actions speak louder than words really hit home when it came to the Buffaloes' recent game against Nebraska. The overview given by Sharpe wasn't just an empty prediction, but a sobering reality that unfolded by halftime. With Nebraska leading the scoreboard by an eye-catching 28-0, they were totally in control, having a field day both on offensive and defensive fronts.
Loss. Buffs quarterback Shedeur Sanders was sacked 5 times and didn't finish.
If you're a college football fan, you sure know this guy, Shedeur Sanders. He's touted as one of the hotshots in the field. Unfortunately, the match against Nebraska wasn't one of his best days. Despite pulling off 244 passing yards with a touchdown to his credit, Shedeur had some hiccups. He ended up tossing a pick 6 and faced the wrath of the Cornhuskers' formidable defense, who sacked him not just once or twice, but an intense 6 times. And don't get me started on their running game. It was like trying to draw water from a stone, a complete drought. They only managed to scrape together 16 yards from a whopping 22 carries. That's a disheartening average of 0.7 yards per attempt, aka virtually negligible. It's an understatement to say that there's considerable room for improvement. Regrettably, Sharpe contends that the team's prowess in running the ball, resisting the opposing team's runs, pressuring the adversary's quarterback, or safeguarding their MVP quarterback was found wanting. These shortcomings go against the essence of what constitutes a competent team in a match.
I have a number, and he was hit other times as well. And yeah, they failed that test. This offensive line it's hard to say 2 games in that they're dramatically better. And, we thought that's what we were told. It was that this group is dramatically better. I mean, it's a bunch of dogs. It's a way better offensive line than last year. I think it's better, but it's not dramatically better at this.
Letting the metaphorical cat out of the bag, he sheds light on their core predicament, which can be traced back to subpar internal strategies. Despite Coach Prime's assurances of an upgrade, the Buffs' offensive and defensive lines are far from meeting the mark. Their star player, Shedeur, was left in a pickle, trying to find alternatives owing to insufficient time for receivers to get into position. Speaking of Shedeur, Sharpe didn't shy away from highlighting a critical flaw in his game, comparing it effectively to a chink in the armor. Shedeur tends to hold on to the ball far longer than necessary. Mixing an underperforming offensive line with such a habit is like cooking up a catastrophe on the football field. In Sharpe's wise words, throwing the ball away isn't always a bad idea. You could toss it and still make it a 2nd and 10, or even throw it away to make it 3rd and 7. It won't make your stats look pretty, but it's a strategy worth considering. Sharpe is convinced that right now, when it comes to Shedeur's recruitment phase, scouts are looking beyond just his completion percentage. More often than not, this figure alone won't be the deciding factor in his success. Here's a fun thought. Scouts might have viewed it as a smart move if Shedeur had decided to toss the ball away instead of landing that pick 6. Talking about the unfortunate Buffs, their struggle is like a poorly baked pie without a solid crust. Everything just falls apart. Due to the absence of a solid run game, the burden on Shedeur increases substantially, pushing him to bear the brunt of the game. The Buffs' inability to run the ball effectively is like a cloud casting a gloomy shadow over Shedeur's performance, putting him under tremendous pressure to shoulder the responsibility.
Even if they players a little better interior, in the interior. I could be wrong.
But look, Nebraska is better. Last year was Matt Rule's first year. So normally the second year, you get the players that you really want, because a lot of times you gotta keep some holdovers. Even though it's a transfer portal, guys are going to leave and some guys are going to come.
And the Buffaloes are having a tough time with their running game. In the midst of the chit-chat, Ocho dropped a hint that perhaps the Buffs needed to change their game plan. If they hadn't been able to pave a path for Shedeur, an attempted shotgun formations could have been a smart choice. He further opined that the runs they put into action should have stretched a bit to allow the routes to unfold properly. Despite this, the Buffaloes ended up missing the bullseye, failing to adapt accordingly. The Cornhuskers were right in Sanders' face, giving him barely a moment to decipher his course of action. To build on this thought, Sharpe weighed in on why this might have happened. He pointed the finger at Nebraska and Matt Rule, stating they had the upper hand because they knew that the Buffs had a weak link. They could hardly push the football forward. To bring this fact into sharp relief, he noted, Colorado attempted running the football 22 times only to move it 16 yards. That's less than what you started with. Sharpe's analysis highlights the Buffalo's struggles and the need for a tactical turnaround. Hence, the latest game against Nebraska has left some fans feeling a bit disappointed. They thought the Buffs were on the verge of a breakthrough, all geared up for greatness. But that doesn't seem to be the case just yet. Shedeur is surely one to watch out for this season. This sensational player will likely pull off fantastic plays that will light up our screens and fuel our fandom. And let's not forget the future superstar, Travis Hunter. We can expect him to grace us with some truly awe-inspiring moments on the field. But where does that leave Deion Sanders? Reputation is hard to build, easy to ruin, and even harder to rebuild. It's a grey area. Folks, we all know Sanders has some loose ends to tie up in college football. But can he turn things around? The jury is still out on that one. I think the Buffs need to go back to the drawing board and reevaluate their strategies. Relying solely on Shedeur's arm and talent isn't cut if the foundational aspects of their game aren't solidified. It means investing time in refining their offensive line and developing a more diversified game plan that doesn't leave Shedeur as the lone warrior on the field. We all know Sanders has some loose ends to tie up in college football, but can he turn things around? So, while the recent performance may have fallen short of fans' expectations, it's important to embrace the sport's unpredictability and stay optimistic about future matches. But what's your take on it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more exciting content.